was focused on a business that was, moving towards the mass market in terms of video communication, very early days of broadband and the internet. I mean, it was at that stage, you were really lucky if you were able to get a DSL. I mean, some people may not even know what DSL, you know what it is, but a DSL connection. And we had invested a lot of money in a solution. And I enjoyed, working with teams, building new products or services, and ultimately, growing a business. And that was what I was focused on at that time with Sorenson Media. And we had received a term sheet from Venrock, a very good term sheet, to fund the growth of the business. And the next day, the dot-com bubble burst, and anyone that lived during that time frame saw tremendous devaluations, particularly of tech businesses, and portfolios were decimated, and all of the investors and really even partners, because this was very much a play where there was a convergence of technology that was needed in order to drive this market for us. It basically was put on hold, and we were left there, scrambling. We had a burn rate, and I was looked at this business, and I didn't know what to do. I could close the business. I could continue. I mean, it was a classical entrepreneurial moment where, what do you do? How do you pivot from this? And it was right at that junction that a brother-in-law of mine that I hired sometime earlier, who was deaf, and I hired him because he had a hard time finding a job. He was good. He'd gotten a college degree, but he just could not, get a job. And I thought there might be a market in the deaf community. And he came to me with this new service that was being trialed for the deaf community called Video Relay Service. And what it enabled was the deaf to be able to communicate with the hearing through a remote American Sign Language interpreter over the internet in real time. And up to that point in time, their communication was very, I would say, a lot of latency and jerkiness to it, because it was text-based. You'd type in a message, it'd be read to someone that was hearing by a relay operator. The response would come back and it would be typed. Very unsatisfactory and difficult, and it really wasn't real time. And this solution enabled a fluid communication between someone that was deaf and someone that was hearing in their own language, the American Sign Language. And because we'd invested in the tech, we were in a much better position to provide an experience to the deaf community than the AT&Ts, the Hamiltons, and others that were using net meeting, which was really 3 frames per second in a 3-inch screen on the computer, where we provided an appliance that connected to the TV that enabled the whole TV to be used at full SIF resolution, 15 frames per second. So you can imagine the difference for those that were deaf, and also enabled peer-to-peer, communication between the deaf. And it was an immediate success. The company grew exponentially, and a tremendous exit. But I think even more impactful to me, I was being referred to, and I don't know that it was deserved by any means, but as the Alexander Graham Bell of the deaf. And it did create this moment of, realizing that not only was it a successful business, but it had a very profound impact on this underserved community. And because it was a business, there was a cash flow model to it, and we could access capital from a much larger pool. We were able to scale and become self-sustaining, and I think really make a difference in a way that would be difficult to replicate with a with a government program or in a typical NGO or nonprofit type fashion. And that put me on the path at that point. I wanted to give back, and I wasn't satisfied with just, what was available in typical philanthropy. I wanted to utilize this model, and I started looking for other sectors of impact, other sources for deal flow to look for, and ultimately, that's what led me to impact investing. And of course, this was before the term had been coined. I went on to microfinance and had a similar experience then. And, at that point in time, it was really, how do I help to build the field, to create awareness, educate, and then help facilitate an enabling ecosystem that would enable capital to be used for impact.